know this is a session planned for ICVFX because I'm wearing green. Normally, nobody would dare to wear green, right? If you're talking about virtual production. So while we will moderate the session and all of us will talk to you about various aspects of virtual production that each of us deal in, what I thought we'd just do is do a very, very quick 5-minute overview of what is virtual production. I hope at some point in the near future, I have to stop doing this presentation because it becomes common knowledge. But until we get to that point, maybe for another month or so, I just want to do that. And there's also some additional information in here about the size of the industry, where it's, what's the size now, what was the size last year, where it's likely to go over the next 6 or 7 years. So let's go ahead with that. Okay, so let's talk about the money first, right? Because otherwise, what the hell are we doing here? So in 2021, we spent $220 billion globally creating content. Out of that, $1.5 billion went to virtual production, which seems like a small percentage, but given the fact that virtual production is maybe 3 years old, it's actually quite a lot. And over the next 6 years, it's likely to go up to 50 billion. I have no idea how many billion, or maybe we'll reach $1 trillion in content creation costs, but it's a lot, which basically means that this is here to stay. It's not going away. It's not like 3D televisions, which, you know, was here for a while and then nobody knows what happened. It's here to stay. There is really no definition for virtual production right now, so I generally try and put in at least a one line which you can explain to a 5-year-old what is virtual production. So this is what I try to tell people is virtual production. It's essentially real-time creation of blended content, which is live action plus CG. So the penny needs to drop for all content creators. You need to understand that you are no longer shooting video. When you are creating using virtual production, you are basically capturing data. And the moment you figure that out and you realize that you're operating in a data-based volume, everything else then starts to fall into place, and you don't make the usual lateral transition that you want to make from live action filmmaking to virtual production, which is what is actually causing most of the problems. People, and you know, for example, everyone says fix it in post. Virtual production people say fix it in pre, but most people don't understand how long that pre-production is. It can go up to a year, at least a minimum of 3 months. So if you're waking up today and you want to shoot something 2 weeks later in a volume stage, you're already late. And the mistake that people will do is they will still continue to go ahead with that, right? And then you have bad virtual production. So there's 3 workflows within virtual production. There's all CG virtual production, on-set virtual production, and in-camera VFX. The LED volume stuff is ICVFX. On-set virtual production we've been doing for 40 years now, which is basically your green screen, green box studios. And all CG virtual production is what was used to create Lion King, is what both Unity and Unreal have been used for ages by content creators long before the live action integration came in, where every CG asset was created separately, individually, and it was all brought onto a game engine platform, right? It's the very clear parameters as to what each of these is, and the point is not to necessarily stick yourself to only one. Within the same film, you may be able to deploy all 3 content creation pipelines, depending on where you want to deploy it and what you want to use. So it doesn't, every shot doesn't have to be an LED shot. You're not getting any marks by anybody just because you shot something on an LED volume until it's saving money, or it's increasing efficiency, or it's increasing imagination. Right? So don't make that thing about, oh, this is a shiny new thing, let me use it just because it exists. This is complicated, and this is a 45-minute session on its own. This is essentially the first ever wall chart for virtual production created in the world. Right? It's created by SMT, Society of Motion Pictures and Television Engineers, of which I'm a part. I helped create this. And over the next 3 months or so, there is going to be an active version of this chart where for all of us, all we need to do is visit the chart, click on any particular icon that you see, and you'll get a list of all the globally available educational material that's available, which you can peruse for free, right? This is a thing that SIMT is doing, and there are all these people who have contributed to the wall chart that you can see there. Basically the top, whatever, 50 media and entertainment tech companies in the world. You'll see one Chotu whistling woods there. So I'm very happy. Anyway, for us, for me, for our students, what I actually like to use is this. It is much clearer and it's much better than any of the more larger complicated flowcharts. It essentially breaks down the content creation pipeline to the smallest unit, the shot. And then it explains what the virtual production pipeline is for a shot, right? Where you essentially have your action asset. Action asset is anything that moves while the shot is happening. And then you have the world. The world is generally not something that moves, but your point of view of looking at it changes. That is the world. So if it is a prop is actually part of an action asset. The same prop could also be in the world, right? You almost have to look at it as theater space and screen space, right? If you were to look at standard theater, traditional theater space and screen space, right? So essentially you've got a bunch of action assets. You have a bunch of ways that the world can be created. All these are brought real time on a bed of, on a gaming engine, which is VP compatible. Now, VP compatible essentially means that you have something called volume control. Volume control is you can control the volume in which the content sits. That is done by camera tracking, object tracking, motion tracking, performance tracking, and, well, now also performance capture. So once you've got these things which a gaming engine enables, and also enables real-time render, you can bring all these in and clear out your workflow and clear out your pipeline. So it's a good way to basically get a 101, a basic thumb rule of, at the shot level, what is the VP workflow, right? And most importantly, it's not meant only for big films. Please don't think that it's only meant for the 1899s and the, whatever of the world. Medium budget films, if you have 1 or 2 key scenes and you do good work on it, will greatly enhance the production value of a film and will actually provide much better value. So don't look at it as just the big film ka solution, right? The biggest enemy of virtual production is bad virtual production. And you really should go through a very, very proper, detailed flowchart before deciding, am I going to shoot on VP? Am I going to shoot on LED? Am I going to shoot on green screen, right? So we've actually done it at Whistling Woods. I mean, you won't be able to see it here, but this is how complicated or how many questions you have to ask yourself before you arrive at the decision on whether you're going to shoot on volume or no. Most of these are no. Most of these are shoot live action, shoot on live action, shoot in green box, or most of them. There's just 2 or 3 where you end up shooting in volume. So you go through this, happy to send this out to you all, no problem. Start to use it as a decision-making process. For the first few times, you may have to actually do a checklist. After that, it will become second nature, right? And please, if you see there are any lacunas in this, please let us know. We're happy to update it. Nobody's an expert in virtual production. Nobody. So some consultant comes to you and say, sir, I am virtual production expert. Please run the other direction. Including me, if I ever say that, but I won't, right? So, thank you. To take off from the last slide that I showed here, and here is where most of you know, everybody, all of you all have interacted with the industry in a significant manner. People who have questions about virtual production, people who have tried it and done well, people who have tried it and not done well. Where are they asking the right questions? Is the industry, are people who are keen to shoot in virtual production, are they asking the right questions? And if not, what do you think is what do you think they need to do next so that they are able to ask the right questions in order to arrive at the right decision, whether to shoot on VP or no? So, Robbie, why don't we start with you?
I think when it comes to asking the questions, there isn't enough awareness. People don't know what the right question is. So the biggest learning right now is to be able to do a lot of open houses, to be able to get them to experience virtual production firsthand, and then with time get them to understand the questions they need to ask. That decision tree you put up, while I was reading through it and I could still grab most of it, I can vouch probably my last dollar that a lot of people will not understand the importance and the mind space that one needs. For a filmmaker to say, okay, we are now going to be capturing data instead of film, it's a paradigm shift. And that shift is something that needs to be educated to people right now.
Yeah, it's also something which, it's not the first time it's happening, right? We did make that change when entirely animated content workflow started. Now, in that case, the people who are shooting live action and the people who are making animated content were not the same, right? Which is why that the dirting of the waters hadn't happened for the animation people. But we've already done it once before. There is no reason why we can't do it again, right? So someone like, someone like you, for example, who you do both, right? You do blended content. So have you all taken some learnings? Have you all had some sessions with industry, with directors, with writers to try and explain with cinematographers, saying, oh, this is where you need to.
Yeah, we have. In fact, we had an open house. You were there, part of it as well. And the biggest learnings from that was the kind of questions and how appreciative the industry has been for it. As in, the response was great. As in, everyone walked out of there a little more educated on the entire thing. So I think the industry, everyone, a cinematographer to a director to a production designer and all the other faculties, I think everyone is excited about it. I think it's a space that is definitely going to grow. Your financial forecast of it also says the same. But to be able to do individual workshops or other faculty workshops where you're doing a workshop only for DOPs, you're doing a workshop only for directors, you're doing a workshop only for production design. I keep mentioning these three because I think these three are the main affected with virtual production. I think that is something that whether it is in Whistling Woods as a education pipeline, or even if it is with studios that are up and running, that is something that the more you give back to society at this point of time, the more you will yield later. We've been, over the last 2 years, spending a lot of time sowing virtual production. We still aren't ready to reap it, and it would be really futile and stupid if we try reaping it right now, because then you'll get bad production.
Yeah. So talking about education, there is probably one organization which has done more education, that has not done more education in virtual production than Greenway. So why don't we hear from Utsav about initially what were your reactions to how people were reacting to you trying to educate them, and over the last, I would say it's been about 3 years now, how has the industry response changed?
Oh, so we do education. Hello. So we do education like for technicians, as well as we have interacted with creatives, directors and cinematographers and everybody and all. What we've found is that, like you said, there's it's not just VP, it's like a full workflow that has changed. Now to adapt to that workflow and to have that ecosystem easily available to them, obviously that's not there right now. Our experience has been that every time they have come and seen something happening, unfolding in front of them, they have liked it. And it's like sort of opens up their mind as to what all they can do completely. So yeah, I mean, we've got very good reactions from them. At the same time, we've got some reaction which is like, some of the directors and all have felt that, okay, I'm locking too much before the shoot itself, and this is not my style of working and stuff and all. And probably I need more, leverage while, I don't want to decide everything before. So yeah, I mean, that's just their personal understanding of the thing. I mean, both can be done. You need not lock everything, like even when you are doing traditional shoot, you do lock your location and your camera and equipment and go there, out there, and then, within that you leverage whatever you can leverage. So yeah, I mean, these are the kind of reactions we've got.
So just to add to that, so we've done a few sessions with a few filmmakers who've come in. And what we found was the hardest thing to explain, or not explain, but to communicate to the director and for the director to get it is they have to direct the film twice. Once during previs and once when it's actually being recorded, right? And they have to be present both times. You can't let third AD do the previs because he or she is going to do it from their directorial sensibility. And when you then prepare everything based on that, and then you show up on set, and then the director has some other vision, and then her vision or his vision is not being matched because you prepared everything based on the previous, right? So, in fact, that is one of the first things that we are now building into our filmmaking undergrad virtual production. For the direction module is, boss, you have to direct twice, right? First, you have less tools. Next time, you've got everything.
Yeah, so this is also a very good thing. Like we did a project in which, it was Final Pixel, and there was mocap involved and everything, involved. Now, traditionally, working with animation, people don't see the final result, while they are doing it. But with our workflow at the mocap stage, we could stream everything live action on it and show it to the director that time itself. So and they were really excited about it because they could see, generally directors are afraid of doing very tech heavy thing where they don't have that much grasp of it. So having all that technology in front of you and being able to see in real time what the output, what the result is going to be, that has been really appreciated. So I think they really like all that.
Yeah, RTR is the bedrock. Without that, all this is kind of pointless, right?
Yeah.
So let me now come to somebody who's done outstanding visuals. I would like to say legacy content, though not really, and who has actually changed the paradigm of visual effects and high-end post-production in India with Bahubali and so on and so forth. How do they see? It would be easier, in my opinion, for them to adapt to, again, a newer workflow. So how has been your experience? More so dealing with the Telugu film industry, which at least in the last 15 years has shown the willingness to try something new out, right? Much before, you would call them the early movers.
Good afternoon, everyone. V Rao from Annapurna Studios. Basically, Chaitanya has given many presentations about virtual production and been there, and you are the one who motivated us to get into virtual production. Thank you for that.
Thank you, sir.
And it is our dream to build a virtual production stage in Hyderabad, Annapurna Studios. We got that idea just before pandemic. And we did a lot of research on it, on what kind of tools we have to bring to the stage. And finally, we have zeroed on and been building the stage since last 1 year now. Just since last 2 months, we have done a couple of internal tests, which was very much successful. Because tomorrow, after launching the facility, we don't want to do any experiments on the clients, We brought some very close clients and we did a couple of shoots, almost 10 shoots, that too for the films, not for ads, not for any YouTube content. And the content will start coming from next month onwards, and our facility will be open for clients from April, May onwards.
Fantastic.
The problem we are facing from the industry is, if DOP understands the technology, then directors say, no, it's a new technology, whether we should try or not, because Planning the shoot with the artist is not a small thing. It is very complicated. When star comes, they have to shoot it so fast. You know, they can't wait for something. Will the technology work on the shoot day or not? Those are the questions that clients keep on asking. So the understanding on the virtual production for the entire team is essential. You know, the director, the production designer, the cameraman, and other rest of the crew. So whoever understands, they are coming forward on doing it. And I think since it is a new baby in the technology, it will take time. That's what we believe. We don't expect the clients to come to jump on it and do it. And yes, there is a good reception from the people. It will be, I think the future is the virtual production, no doubt about it. So to give an example, recently we had one shoot. Can I take some time?
Yeah, please.
So recently we had one shoot. That director didn't want to come to virtual production because the director wanted one slum area in the foreground and the train passing off the camera. Then in the far behind, there should be a city. And they tried a couple of locations where the director was not happy. Fortunately, the same DOP worked with us on our virtual production for one of the the film. And director explained about the virtual production to the director. He said, the DOP explained the director to come and visit the facility. With a lot of pressure, he came to the facility one day. And we took him through the entire process, like from storyboard, previews, and tech vision, everything. And we have given him the concepts, how it is going to be. He didn't have a trust on it. Then we had to do one shot and show it to him on the wall itself. That's where he got connected. And on the shoot day, he was like, I don't remember how many times he hugged me after seeing the results. And he's the one he's telling in the market that I am going to do a couple of scenes in virtual production. So getting the client to the virtual production is one challenge, and making them happy on the shoot day is another challenge. So it's our responsibility. Even MediaMonks is here. They have a brilliant facility in Delhi. I was there. And it's our responsibility to make the client happy on the shoot day. If it happens, the future is virtual production, no doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just on that, so we've done a few workshops with directors. 100% of the time, at the end of the workshop, when the director while leaving says, "Arey, I wish I knew this and I had this technology when I was making that movie." 100% of the time they have said that, right? And that's when you realize the penny has dropped. They have figured out whether efficiency or whether financials. Where is this going to help? And the moment that sits in there, you know that the person will figure it out, right?
What we are doing is we are not promoting the technology that you come here and save the money. No, you come here and enhance your imagination.
Expand your
imagination. That's what we are doing in the market.
But at some point, you're going to have to also start to build out charts to explain to the producer that it saves money.
Exactly.
So let's now move to Vivek. Vivek, you're a film engineer. You've built your own camera tracker. You've built your own problem-solving units to work with virtual production, whether it's for treadmill walks or whether it's to do turntable or whether it's for high-speed motion bots. You worked with the American Society of Cinematographers. You worked on high-end projects in India and the US as well as in Estonia. How do you see and now, thanks to me, he's at Whistling Woods. How do you see, where are we in the graph? So if you look at the graph that the US followed from, say, 2010 to 2023, India, that graph has just started, I would say, in 2018 or 2019. So where are we on that graph?
Okay. Thank you, Sisi. It's always a pleasure to share the stage with him and the other pioneers here. So, taking virtual production as a mainstream filmmaking technique, India started way too late. So, we've been experimenting, we've been doing virtual production since the 60s, if I believe, right? And we are still doing the same. What enabled virtual production right now is the capacity to render real-time graphics and other elements that are interactive, that bridges the gap between the real world and the virtual world in real time. And that's what enabled virtual production. And I guess India is actually getting into it at the right time, where a lot of things have been tested in the West, and we could learn from the mistakes that they have committed, and we could smartly save ourselves some bucks in terms of implementing the right solution. There are like a million cables and like a million components that goes behind the LED wall and behind the green stage. And routing these through in a very smart way, specific to your script requirements, as well as the choice of cameras, like how you choose your lenses. You got to choose the kind of LED walls, you got to choose your equipment on set, and what's the max capacity that you're going to be, ripping off the deck. So you got to be very sure about how to do that. And to get back to the question, I think in the next 3 to 5 years, I think 70% of the films will have, or at least part of the films will have virtual production as their pipeline. That's what I see.
Nice, thanks. On the entire merging of creatives with tech, right? So that is a gray area that's an exchange and oversight, like an overlap area that you work in. Right? How have you, generally Indians are pretty good with merging creatives with tech. In the case of virtual production, why is it taking so long? According to me, by now, we should have had 70-80% of the industry should have been comfortable with virtual production. So is it because we're trying to do a lateral transition from live action pipeline to virtual production without, restarting from a clean white piece of paper? What's that? I see some blockage there.
Yeah, I think it's because there's so many heads, too many cooks in the kitchen, right? There should be, the hierarchy should be completely eliminated. Because the transfer of knowledge and the idea, when you are transferring some information, this is what I want this in a shot, and this is what I want to do in the film. So when you tell that to the technicians, the creative freedom of the creator who wrote the script, or who actually conceived the story, is actually losing bits and pieces in every line of stage. Like every hierarchical, chain of command loses a bit of information, and that's where a lot of information gets lost. And to avoid this has to become like a round table conference on the scripting stage itself. The technicians need to be involved way too early in the procedure, where they could opt in alternate solutions and other creative solutions, so that your creative freedom is retained rather than limiting yourselves to the technology. Most of the people, those who understand virtual production today, they think it's like too expensive, or it's too complicated. There's so many people. Yes, it is. But if you navigate it smartly, and if you let all your team members in from the beginning of the conception, I think it would be a great winner.
Thanks. So one of the big problems that we face in virtual production today is how photoreal does the world look, right? So some of that is the problem of all the artists that's sitting here, but other half of the problem is yours, because we need the appropriate world in which we can project the world that we create. So, see, LED walls have been around for 30 years now in varying sizes, shapes, forms. Where do you see as Absen, and we've seen the Absen demos at NAB, IBC over the last many years. I have walked on an Absen LED which was there at IBC, and I asked the guy 5 times, chalu ke nahi chalu, right? Given that you've got this pedagogy, this history, how do you see your role in making sure that ICVFX becomes a major workflow?
Well, Chaitanya, virtual production per se, okay, as you mentioned that it is growing at a rate of 15.9 CAGR, and globally virtual production is well accepted, but in India it is still at a very nascent stage. Okay, so when we talk about the technology per se, I remember the first virtual production goes way back when people used to project using the rear projection projectors and film used to play, the content viewers used to feel that the actor is sitting in the moving car. Okay, but now when we talk about virtual production, we want to create a very realistic VFX, which we call as IC VFX, so that the content viewer doesn't understand whether it is actually shot or in the studio, or he feels that it is actually in the real scenario. So at Absen, what we are doing is we are trying to solve many of the problems faced by the virtual production market. Basically, when you talk about high refresh rates, or you talk about shutter sync, you talk about low off-color offsets, and you need high CRIs, which is color, color rendering index. Basically, you need more of that. You need less light reflection on the LEDs. So there is a lot of technology going on the LED side. So we have a dedicated team and trying to address these problems. We have specific products for the virtual production. So I personally perceive that this particular market is going to be a great market for us. And we are not only trying to address the problems based on the cost, we are also trying to get innovative products so that I can go to a customer or maybe a studio who want to make a small low budget virtual production studio. So how we can address that, how we can manage, can we manage with little more scan modes compared to 1:6 or 1:14? Can I go for 1:20? Is that okay with you? Or can we manage with lesser brightness? Because the challenge is where like I need to maintain the brightness as well as I have to maintain the better contrast ratio and the black colors. So there are a lot of technology which has been evolved in last couple of years, and now we are equipped with many more products which we can give to the low-cost studio as well as the high-cost studio what exactly they want. We can customize based on that.
Yeah. Now the other kind of thing that so LED walls have been around in television, primarily sports, live sports, and live news.
Yes,
for
yes.
15 years or so now.
Yes.
What have been your learnings from there which you think you can apply to filmed entertainment content?
Okay. So we were there. What we used to understand that now the cameras are also have evolved a lot. So we understood that it's always better to talk to the camera, okay, and understand how the LED can respond back to the camera. So we were talking about how my screen will look good on camera, basically by improving the shutter sync, or maybe by improving the black colors based on the cameras compared to what we see with the naked eyes. So previously in broadcast studio, now also in broadcast studio, people don't talk too much about the black areas. But when it comes to virtual production, we need to talk about all those aspects and try to address those aspects so that we get the desired output. Because what we are doing virtual production is to get the actual output, desired output. So that is only can come out if we are using the right set of LEDs and the complementary equipments, like what Vivek was saying, that we need proper camera tracking. So everything is linked. So we need to have low latency, because what we are talking here is we are talking about rendering the image on the live image on the screen, which was not possible previously. Previously, the servers never used to give that kind of rendering. Now we can do live rendering. I can make a set, and that will become an asset for me, and I can change the set and everything. So that was not possible in the past. Now it is possible, and that's why I feel that virtual production has a long way to go, and we can do a lot of good work in film industry.
Okay, nice. So we have some time. I'm going to ask them a couple more questions, but please keep your questions ready. I will come to you all. India is the VFX factory of the world, right? There is no two ways about that. Almost all our involvement happens after the principal photography has been done. Some involvement happens before, but most of it happens after. Given the fact that globally you're seeing a potential $50 billion market, as content creators, as creatives, visual creatives, how do you see the opportunity for us to play roles in world building? Both using Unreal assets as well as photogrammetry, or creating VAD assets, whether it is characters, whether it's scans of photoreal humans, etc., etc., etc. So that entire services pipeline, which we are right now doing in post VFX, how do you see that the transition of that to pre, especially in the VAD space, in virtual production? So,
CC, I think like how we keep saying, the post will turn the pre, and that's exactly how it's going to happen. As in, I believe that VAD services will start forming independent organizations. There'll be independent teams, like how you have your director and AD teams coming in. You'll have your DOP and his team coming in. Similarly, you'll have a VAD team that will come in, and that it could just as easily be a big production house that services a lot of the big brands for only their VAD services. So this will be a VAD specialization, an entire unit that will be formed, a new organization that will come to be, that will only be remote VADing.
Sorry to interrupt. Okay, sorry. We're using terminologies randomly. VAD stands for Virtual Art Department or Virtual Art Design, right? Which is essentially creating all the CG characters beforehand or creating them so that they can be taken on set. So I just want to make sure that you all got it and you weren't wondering what VAD is, right? Sorry, back to you.
Yeah, so I think that's where it's going to move. I think a lot of your big players who are, and India is the VFX factory for the world, they are going to be building out their VAD solutions. They're going to be leasing out their VAD solutions to wherever your big shoots are happening. And that's the model that would be a studio model, as per se, that would come into play.
Now, someone who's already done some of that, because it's not possible to visualize and create something like Bahubali without having extensive previous VAD assets created, right? So how has been your experience in having that experience, primarily with what was normally done in post being done in pre, and now you have to do it in pre?
So generally for the films, what happens is they shoot, edit and give it to us. So we'll at least identify the team who can do what. But here we have to do it in pre-production itself. So finding the talent is the biggest challenge at the moment. We are approaching the film colleges and the schools to train the students on, particularly on the Unreal Epic game. So where we can pull the talent, and also preparing the talent is not immediately, it is going to happen. It may take a year or 2 years. We are also reaching vendors, the VAD vendors, virtual art department vendors, throughout the India and also globally. We are trying to reach them, because to keep our stage busy for minimum 10 days in a month, because that is minimum we need to keep the facility busy to get our money back at least 4 or 5 years. So we are trying to reach the vendors around the globe, and we are telling the clients to build their own assets. It's not mandatory they have to come here and build with our team. So they can build their own assets and come to us, and we have some set standards to share the technical specs with the vendors also, where they can follow the specs for assets to throw it on the wall, because the asset optimization also is very important. Throw it on the wall, because you need to play in a real time. There 24 frames minimum. Some clients are asking for more than 24 frames, 48s. Our wall is capable of supporting up to 120 frames per second, but the asset supports are not. So in the future, I think maybe 1-2 years, you will have a shortage of manpower, which we are facing at the moment. The only way is to collaborate with the existing vendors. That's what we see.
Yeah. And further to you, and I'm going to come to you as well, there are what we see opening up now. For example, at Whistling Woods, we have an entire track in our undergrad filmmaking program on virtual production. And for masters, it will be a module that would be taught to direction, cinematography, producing, production design, and VFX students. But in addition to that, whether it's world building, which is common across game design, visual effects, and production design, or whether it's character design, which is common across gaming and animation, or whether it is previs, which has historically been an animation merged with direction kind of role. So these specific upskilling modules for the industry. So somebody who's been doing storyboarding now for 15, 20 years, let's bring them in. Let's teach them how to do previs with basic animatics. Or somebody who's been doing a lot of production design in physical form. Let's bring them in and take them through the training of how to do the same thing in what you call visual scouting or virtual scouting, right? Give them a bunch of CG assets. So some of these chota upskilling modules, where is Green Rain at that? Have you started to?
Yes, I mean, we've worked on projects where, like, for instance, PDs, they've given us like SketchUp files and other stuff, the format that they work with, and we've done virtual scouting with that, and it's quite easy for all those kind of things. So even for the scanned and photogrammetry assets and stuff, we've scanned a lot of assets and we've put it on LED volume and checked and stuff. The pipelines are smooth, but it works really beautifully. You don't have to optimize too much. There are times when we have done photogrammetry to directly LED, and for small, obviously it depends from case to case, but yeah, it works also and it looks beautiful. We've even used iPhone-based LiDAR scanners, and we've taken assets and stuff and all and put it on LEDs, and it looks fantastic. So, I mean, these things are really promising. If people can see this more often, they will definitely go for it. Okay. For this entire thing, like the pipeline exists for everything. We take CAD-based stuff and turn it into virtual scouting and everything within half a day's notice. Like there are times that has happened where we're trying to do something for an airport ATC tower or something. A CAD file came to us and the next day we were scouting at it. So, yeah, I mean, people it's not that, even when PDs and all, they see it, it's just that something unlocks within them. They think that, why didn't we know about it earlier? So, yeah.
So, Vivek, now that you've helped us structure the curriculum and, going through it, we've had one semester now of students going through basics of virtual production. What has been your reaction to 17, 19-year-olds?
They're just excited. They're like, we've been playing games. They're the era where they started playing games as the kids, right? And when they see the kind of quality that virtual production can offer, even though it may or may not feel photorealistic, they find very, realistic, because that's the graphics they've been used to. So there is a shift that's happening in terms of perceiving what's photoreal and what's not photoreal. That is also, parallelly running. But everybody is just excited that, they could see an output immediately. I don't have to wait for 3 months to finish the entire, green screen replacement, or to find a Marvel superstar, just flying around. I don't have to wait for 3 months. I get to see it then and there. And then I can take creative calls on in which direction they have to flow on the spot. So a lot of the things gets much more clearer in terms of narrating a story or delivering a concept to the audience. Like, okay, this is the magnification that I want. This is what, is in the screen. So having that creative freedom, I'm going to keep repeating creative freedom. So that's what virtual production provides. You get to choose what gets to be on screen and in your own terms. As a storyteller, that's an added benefit. So
nice, thanks. So one more thing which we're now looking at doing is, and any educational institutions out there, please, I mean, I'm imploring you, treat game engine as basic as Adobe Premiere Pro, right? From next year onwards, every single filmmaking student at Whistling Woods will do at least the basics of how to use a game engine. Within 5 years, it's going to be as ubiquitous as a standard timeline-based editing platform. So why would you not want them to learn it, right? I wanted to do it from this year, but we don't have space. in the curriculum. But from next year, I don't care. I'm going to clear out 30 hours and get them to learn Unreal, right? So, given this ecosystem and given that we see all this, when do you think you'll have a film in India? Just give me a number of years where essentially nobody ever sets foot outside the studio.
I think between CJ, between Mr. Rao and I, probably a year and a half.
Year and a half, okay, good.
Now, shooting a film completely in virtual production?
Studio se bahar nahi jane ka. Vitamin D
I
deficiency.
doubt, basically. See, now no film is happening without VFX. Okay? No film is happening without VFX today. I don't think, maybe like 5-10%. No film will happen without virtual production is the question I have. I doubt.
So how many
Definitely
years? How many years before you reach that stage where no film will not have virtual production?
I have no answer, honestly.
Predict, boss. Come
Real
on.
locations
कितना
are
पैसा डाला है?
required. No,
कितना
no.
पैसा लगा है तुम लोगों ने? Recovery तुमको करनी है.
The actual locations are required for filmmaking, no doubt about it. Virtual production is only one of the new tool. How they can use it is the only question. That's it. It's only a tool.
Done. Good. That's what I wanted.
It's up to them. The more facilities we'll have, I'm sure, like people are definitely enthusiastic and they would definitely want to incorporate virtual production in their, like, they'll not do the entire virtual production, but there are times when virtual production is very really necessary for certain shoots and all.
No,
And
obviously, I mean, if it's two people, a rom-com in an apartment, don't shoot it in virtual production. Shoot it in the damn apartment. Right?
More than films, for commercials, I'm really enthusiastic because, car commercials and, all those things it already happens in some,
that's what,
some way
at
or
their
other.
open house, they were talking about how car creators want the car to be shot in CP, but nobody should see it. Right? Because it's not possible.
And Chaitanya, we have seen the films who made completely in visual effects. You know that, right?
Yeah.
We have seen the proof. How effective they were. They were not effective. Same way, use actual locations and also use the technology called visual effects
Blended
and virtual
content.
production. It's a blend of the technology.
That's the answer I wanted.
Unless, of course, you're using a fantasy land, at which point of time.
If it's Mars, then right. But either parts of Mars are also shot on Earth when they shot the Martian. So still. Anyway, questions. We've got Anil. Can somebody get him a mic?
To MediaMonks and to Rao, Robert and Rao. So, facilities, 2 facilities are coming up now. One is already there in Delhi, one is coming up in Hyderabad. You're opening it out. What's the time period you're looking at getting a turnaround in terms of your investment? And is that holding it back from more studios setting up full-fledged virtual, including your, good media servers for live rendering, for XR, for VR, putting everything together? Is cost a prohibitive element now?
To answer your question, see, the reason we are surviving, keeping this virtual productions list since last 1 year, and myself and John had a conversation during lunch. We are not only focusing on virtual production service alone. We have other services too, like post-production, like shooting force. We are getting money from there and we are putting here. So this virtual production stage is another division for us. So because we see a future for this and we believed in it and we have invested in it. And we believe that it will take couple of years. We thought initially like 4 or 5 years, but we see today that it will take some more time. So since it is evolving, and also we need to educate the clients. It's very, very important.
No, I get that. What I'm saying is, you're looking at a 5-year time frame, and what if technology again runs ahead of you? You'll have to reinvest in some way.
That will always be there. You have to build another stage because one stage is not enough if most of the technicians will come to know and understand the technology. One stage is not enough. 2 stages are not enough in India. You need many more. Like post-production facilities. Is there one facility in India at the moment? No, there are many. Look at the DI facilities. In Hyderabad itself, I see more than 50 facilities at the moment. But there's still a lot of work. Feature films, OTT, YouTube content, short films, ads, That's the reason I was telling, I think in the previous panel meeting, they were more worried about like AI. Is it affecting the youngsters to lose the jobs? No, it's a tool. Because even concept artists, they can start, we don't know how to write in AI, but the concept artist can write the language, how to get the story out of it. So the talent can use the tools which are coming up. That doesn't mean it affects the new talent to lose the jobs and all those things. Hope it is answered your question.
Yeah, can you, someone there? And then there's another person behind. Last two questions.
Hi, this is a question to all the panelists, like whoever gives the best answer.
Hold the mic closer.
Yeah. Hi. So this is an open question for all the panelists based on your experience with virtual production. What are the current limitations from a filmmaker's perspective, like a DOP or a director or something, while shooting on virtual production stage? Like you mentioned earlier on in your pre-presentation that there are a lot of no's. So can you please elaborate on some of those, please, from a filmmaker's perspective?
So, two things that I will talk about. I mean, this is a 20-minute conversation by itself, but two quick things I'll tell you. One is lack of prep. That's the biggest problem. If you try and do ICVFX without proper prep, it's not going to go well. And most people aren't sure of what is the prep needed. Right? So one is understand what prep is needed. And the second most important thing is understand, do I need to shoot in a volume? Or do I need to shoot in a green screen? Or do I need to just shoot in a real location? So it's the choice of whether to shoot in it and then what to do before I show up on set. So those, according to me, are the biggest challenges. Right? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, to get a little more micro, what you'd have challenges is shooting at a certain frame rate and how much you can go to. That's one huge challenge. And the second challenge you'd probably face is where you're looking at a huge expansive shot, like a drone shot and things like that. Those are hard, or rather not advisable to do in virtual production.
Got it. Thank you.
And also, if you want to plan high speed frame rate, there are limitations for it.
They need to then come on board. You need 1.9 with 7800 refresh rate. So.
Yeah, so basically
So we are working on more than 7680 hertz. Now people are talking about how we can increase the refresh rate more than this, because the cameras are also having more refresh rate. So the technology is going to advance. That's the only path ahead. And talking to your question, basically, the answer is there will be challenges, there will be problem solvers every time. Okay, as Robbie already mentioned that, yeah, they are facing some challenges related to the frame rates and everything. Okay, so that can be also maybe in times to come, that will also be getting resolved.
Yeah, of course.
The one big
is quite new, so.
The one big problem that nobody has spoken about, and none of us, and I mean, I keep trying to solve the problem, is you can't do sync sound on an LED volume.
Oh, okay.
You can't do sync sound because the sound will reflect off the LED.
Yeah,
That's the biggest problem. Yeah?
Makes sense. Cool. Thank you, guys.
Can you, at the back?
Chaitanya, sorry,
Who?
I have a mic here.
Oh, yeah.
Chaitanya, DOP Manu Anand here. So just wanted to add on to what he said on the limitations front. As a DOP, I'm really appreciate what Mr. Rao said, that there are certain things that the LED is not well designed for. You cannot get rid of natural hard light. It takes a lot of effort from a DOP to create sunlight on set. And sunlight on set in a virtual environment does not work well. Even all the shows that you see, they do overcast really well, they do magic hour really well, and they do interior arc scenes really well. But when it comes to hard light, even Jon Favreau now has taken it outside.
Yeah.
So,
even Mandalorian, they actually, even for those 2-3 shots, they actually built it outside.
So when you're balancing the light of the LED with the actor, it's great for the reflection, it's great for everything with certain quality of light. But certain quality of lights, it's really, really hard to do. And I think any slight bounce on the screen changes the contrast. there are a lot of limitations when it comes to natural sort of landscapes. So I really appreciate Mr. Rao for mentioning that.
There's a mic there somewhere? Yeah, and the last question, because I've been hounded, is one big thing, time's up
Yes,
here.
the time's up, but on the request of CC, we're just going to give an opportunity to the fellow out here. Can we quickly
I can't
pass on the
see
mic?
who's got the mic. Yeah.
Yeah. He's not got the mic, but
No,
I
no,
can place
the
him.
person at the back raised his hand, no? The blue shirt. No, the blue shirt. Oh, I didn't see anybody else. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay, but we cannot give to an opportunity quickly.
Offline.
Yeah, offline.
Okay.
Can hear you.
Just to add on what Manu sir just now said, what is the understanding of the color sands? When it comes to capturing through the camera, through the sensor, and if you're looking at an HDR or an SDR pass in the grade, how easy is that?
Okay, so quickly, it's a long conversation. So
I know.
SIMD is working on that. So by the way, Unreal Engine, all RTR is now ST2110. So that standard is done. ACES color standard is done. There's a camera metadata standard coming in, which all lens manufacturers, camera manufacturers will start to deploy, hopefully from the end of this year. Actually, I'm not supposed to say this. Shh, delete karo. It's still in progression. So a lot of the color problems are going to get sorted out by some level of standardization that SIMT is bringing in. But I know the color and the hard light, those are the two big problems right now.
Just one
To
more.
add that,
Are you adding a point of view or are you asking another question?
No. Just a pointer on this.
yeah,
sure.
to add that, Netflix has released one open calibration, OCIO, that is helping a lot actually. So also, thank you so much, everyone. I just want to tell one thing. We are opening the facility from next month. If anyone wants to try for a day, if you have any small concept, if you want to come to our facility and try, please welcome. You can reach us on vps@annapurnastudios.com. Thank you. Anyone interested, please do come to us.